Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. As always, my name's Ed. I appreciate you being here and I'm happy to see that we're continuing to grow this community. It's been a lot of fun making these videos over the last few months. I've really enjoyed the process. One thing I want to talk about in this video though is a little bit of how I got started with this whole e-ink journey, way of organizing, way of doing different things to make life easier from an academic context. So a few years ago, more than a few years ago, almost a decade now, probably a little over, I was entering my doctoral program. So I was a returning student. I was 30 when I went back and finished my bachelor's degree. And then I went on and got a master's. And then I was entering this doctoral program. And, without the support of my family, it wouldn't even have been doable. I was trying to figure out how to process a tremendous amount of information. So not only do you have coursework, but you also have to write a dissertation. And for me, the hardest part was trying to categorize, note take, and really synthesize the information in a way that made a lot of sense, and I wasn't duplicating efforts all the time. We're going to talk a little bit about how I think the Supernote, in my particular case, but e-ink more in general, would have helped with that tremendously. Because I remember back in the day when I was trying to do this, I got so excited when I saw my first Kindle. And then I got really excited when the Nook came out because I thought, okay, this is how I'm going to get all of these PDFs and journal articles, and I'm going to be able to annotate and take notes and organize all the data and then be able to turn that into a paper. Suffice it to say, a decade and a little bit more ago, that really wasn't an option. It wasn't something that those devices did. I didn't know that. I tried to make the square peg fit in the round hole, and it just didn't. It was really difficult. So I really admire and I'm a little bit envious of the folks that get to do this now. Uh, whether it's doing just research for academic purposes, whether it's even in the business world, taking notes and being able to access those notes digitally, or the students who are, really doing the dissertation right now because they can do things that we only thought about all those years ago. So, like I said, I will show really quick what I mean by that by pulling up a research PDF and showing the different ways you can engage with that. We've talked about a little bit of the PDF commenting in some of the other videos I've done and the live video I did with Kit Betts Masters. But I really want to look at the different ways you can approach it because really using just one method probably isn't going to be the best method. Just using PDF comments isn't going to be the same as using a PDF comment mixed with annotations and highlights. So using the digest feature alongside of the commenting feature can really be a benefit. So we'll talk about that and we'll go through it. And without any further delay, let's look at that really quick. Okay, so here we are with the A5X. And as I've told you before, this is my preferred device to work with PDFs and larger format documents, whether they're Word documents, PDFs, anything at the 8.5 by 11 size. Primarily because the A6X2, as phenomenal as that device is, really doesn't work well at viewing something at scale, especially if you're going to write in the margins. Now, in this particular case, we're not talking about paper grading, we're talking about research, which is mostly commenting, annotations, embedding things inside. You might use writing in the margins. I don't tend to, but I know some researchers do that a lot. But at the same time, what you can do is use the highlighting feature, the comment feature, and the annotations feature to really kind of round out the research experience on the device. So we're going to go through and look at that use case, kind of how I would approach this if I was doing a dissertation again, which thankfully I'm not. But when I'm doing research, I do utilize this tool even now. This is an academic paper that I've downloaded. And when I scroll through here, one thing that's really useful when you're doing this, and if you don't need the margin to write in, is to use the trim feature. So if you look right here, you'll see the trim feature. And what it does is allow you to do exactly what it sounds like. And it works a lot better when a document is the same size all the way around versus one that may change from page to page. So if it's a scanned document, you may not have as much success in using this feature because you're going to have to go back every page and make sure that your frame, which is this bounding box here, is the same. But if it's a Word document or if it started as a Word document, this is a really good way to use that functionality. So you draw your line where you think it needs to be. I'm a little worried there that I'll cut off some of that text. And I'm a little worried here at the top that I'll cut off some. So I adjust that to where I want it to be and I hit save. Now I can minimize my toolbar and I have the full document. And it's a really nice way to be able to view that. And I can even double tap here and now that portion at the bottom is gone. But what you've noticed is I trimmed it a little too much. See how there's some text left there? So I'll go back in and I'll adjust my trim. And you'll find the button there again. And then what I'll do is go right there. And maybe even a little further down, just in case you have some pages with a little bit more text on them. And again, I'll hit save. Now the full page is right where it needs to be. The only thing here is every time I need to change a tool now, I either need to turn this into the floating toolbar, which makes it easier to kind of move around and manipulate, or I need to take it and snap it in another direction. I'm going to leave it floating for now and then just move it where I need to because it was cutting off the text over here if you noticed when it was there. Now comes the fun part, and this is where I get really excited, and I wish I had this device years ago when I was doing this. So if I want to take notes here, there are several different ways I can do it. Of course, I can scribble on the page, I can underline words, I can do any of that. My gesture eraser works just fine in this format. But I can also, and this is where it's a lot of fun, I can take and use either this tool here or the highlighting tool, which is hidden. But let's just use this one because it does multiple functions. And you'll see it looks like a little cursor symbol with a pen. Let's say I want to highlight Green and Hayward as a source here from this paper. When I do this, it pulls up the menu, so I can just highlight if I want to. I can add an underline, I can annotate, or I can add a comment. So in this particular case, let's just say that I want to highlight so that I remember that source and what it is. But then let's say here, where it says the demands of higher education to provide technological knowledge, to provide new ways of teaching a diverse group, and you start here and go all the way through that sentence, and say here, I want to add in an annotation. Now remember, the annotations are going to be handwritten. So these will not convert to text. You will just write, this is a very important point. Now, the only thing on here that's a limitation is if you're taking extensive notes, you only get this one page. You don't get any bigger real estate than that. So it's really important to be concise in your note taking and also not to write maybe as large as I did here. But you get the highlighted text along with your handwritten annotation. And again, you could sketch something out here if you needed to. and the eraser function works right here as well. And you can delete this if you want. And you'll notice the annotations are underlined. So we have our highlighting, we have our annotation, and then the last thing we can do, and let's say we go back up here and we're like, well, let's look at um, a little bit about Dr. Freemeyer, and he was one of my professors when I was in school. And now let's go ahead and do a comment. And you've seen the comment function before, but we'll go ahead and put, you know, reach out to Dr. Freemeyer. And then we hit save. It's one of the really important functions of this. One thing to be aware of, whether it's a highlight or whether it's a comment, it looks the same. There's no way for you to know unless you press on this and hit that comment key that there's a comment there. And once you export it, you'll be able to see it. But again, it all comes through as highlighted. There may be something in the future. I don't know if they can color code that. I don't know if there's another way for them to make that distinctive so it's easier to tell what's a comment, what's a highlight. But for right now, you do have to press on there to see what the comment would be. And then, of course, if you press here and later you decide, well, I want to go ahead and add in a comment, and I didn't do that the first time around, I can add that to that highlight. The thing you can't do from here is add in an annotation to a highlight. Eventually, I think they'll merge these two things, but as of right now, they haven't. And I think that's a functionality. In this particular case, you would have to delete the highlight and then go back in and add an annotation. Now, one important thing to note here is regardless of whether you do a highlight or a comment, that is going to stay with the PDF. It's not going to go to your digest. So when we look to the digest here in just a minute, you'll see that the only thing that's going to show up is the annotation. Now, a way to kind of trick that or to change that would be to do an annotation with no text and make the system think that it's a highlight. The only issue there is that you're going to get an underline instead of a, a highlighted text. So we'll show that just for clarity's sake. So if you go to the digest, if you go to the home screen, you'll see there's the document we're dealing with, and there is the annotation that we did. You can expand that. You can write more on it here. You can delete it. You can do pretty much whatever you need to here. And then you can go back just with this hyperlink straight back to the PDF. What you didn't see were these highlights or the comments because those are now embedded in the PDF. But let's say that we decided we didn't want this to be a highlight. We wanted it to be in our digest. Then we could take and highlight that same piece of text and we could hit that annotation feature. And now when we go back to our digest, you're going to notice when we go back in, there it is. So now you have two highlighted pieces of text and you can export these as a separate PDF file. And when you jump to it, and there they are. But you'll see there's just the highlighted text, and there's the one with the annotation. So it's a little bit of a workaround, I think, again, because they haven't truly combined those features, but it's definitely a very useful way and leaps and bounds ahead of the way we used to have to do things, which was to use either the QWERTY keyboard on the Kindle or the Nook or the touchscreen or the virtual keyboard. Now we can still use that virtual keyboard or we can write and have the handwriting either the same as it's always been or converted to text through automatic text recognition. All right. Well, that's a very quick tour of what you can do from an academic purpose with this particular thing if you're looking at research. Again, it's a little bit different use case than some of the things we've talked about before. It's very specific. At the same time, it's extremely useful. All right. Well, welcome back. Hopefully that was useful. I really enjoy making these videos and talking through, how they've helped me kind of change my workflow up and do things a little bit differently. Uh, Now, was I successful? Did I get the dissertation done? Of course I did. But I had to go about it a different way. I used a program called EndNote, which helped me with citation management. I used a lot of notebooks. And, that's not the most efficient way to do things, but it works. And if you don't have the budget to use one of these e-ink devices, which make it much easier, there are still things now today on the market like the Rocketbook, which is a very low cost to entry to get into being able to digitize and organize your notes around research, or the Boogie Board, which is another way to be able to do that. And I'll put links down in the description of the video and a link into the blog article I wrote on different types of digital technologies for note taking. The biggest thing is don't get discouraged. Don't not do it because it's hard. Find a path forward. Find something that works for you. Find something that works in your workflow so that you can be successful. There are a lot of barriers in your way to do anything organization related, but you can get that done just by figuring out what works best for you. Well, thank you all for hanging out with me. Thanks for spending some of your time. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. We've had over 25,000 views on our videos, which is amazing to me. We've had close to 400 subscriptions already and over 1,500 watch hours. So, again, thank you so much for the support. Hopefully, you like the content I make and we keep on going with this. Until next time, thank you very much.